Well, hello there, guys. Welcome to the Void Money Network. Just kidding, I am not a network, but I am Void Money. And I am going to do a quick tutorial on how to splice kicks. Or splice kicks and snares, rather. So, first thing, we're using Ableton Live, but you can do this on any DAW as long as you have kicks. So, we're going to actually use the basic kicks that come with Ableton, and we're just going to start throwing them in there. We'll find ones that we like, though, with different qualities. Here, what was this one like again? Okay, let's do that, see how that sounds. And let's throw one more in that's a little bit more in the high end. Something like that. Ooh, I like that. Okay, good. Now, what you're going to do is, you're going to look at it with a spectrum analyzer. So it's a good idea to do this, just so you get a good sense of how everything sounds. So this one, when this one hits, kind of has a little bit of a peak right here, followed by a lower end peak. So I think I want to keep those aspects, but we're also going to try to look where this bass peak is. It's roughly at 53 hertz. So when we go to the next one, you're going to see that one's at 49. So we're going to try to beat match these, or we're going to try to pitch match them, rather. And what was that one again? Was it 53? So I'm just randomly selecting samples here. You can pretty much do this with anything. Sometimes you get some surprises. And I haven't done this in a while either. I have a few samples that I keep going back to. Oh, you know what? Let's do this. And this one also has that high-end snap. Well, it's more of a mid. And it's a little bit closer to 53 than the last sample. But I would also recommend just scouring the internet for as many free samples as you can. Okay, so that's sounding better, but now what we're going to do, we're going to get rid of these. Oh, whoops, I deleted the track. We're going to get rid of these spectrum analyzers. And we're going to throw EQ8s in here. Very simple. And it's going to kind of give a little bit of a less detailed reading. So for this one, I don't want much sub bass. I just want to accentuate that peak there, as well as the one in the middle here. I think it was more like there. So we're going to do that and drop off. Actually, you know what? This one has a decent high. So that's sounding really crunchy. That's going to go really well with the splice once we get there. This one, I think, is the one I wanted to use for the low end. Yeah. So we're going to accentuate the whole low end, but we're going to cut the sub out a little bit. Because if you're going to be using this in a track, it's going to be competing with the sub bass a lot. I mean, depending on what kind of genre you're producing, right? And just play around. See if scanning like this. We're going to turn this into a band reject wave here, or filter here. So we just want to see if there's anything that sounds better or worse. It's pretty resonant, so what I'm going to do is that We're just going to take out the high completely. And then we're going to go this one. This one, I don't want any lows at all. In fact, we're going to bring the Q way down there, but we're going to raise that point and tighten it. And we're going to drop out the mids completely here. And this, I kind of want it to, you know what, let's turn the high pass or the low pass filter on here. And let's see how these all sound together now. Kinda coming together, right? But now what you want to do is adjust the volume levels. The first thing I'm going to do here is make them all roughly peak at the same volume. And we're going to group everything. So now we're preparing to make it into one instrument, basically. We're going to bring that bass way down, because that is super hard hitting and resonant. Okay, that's kind of where I want that to be. So next, we're going to put an EQ8 on the entire group. And we're going to peak the parts that we want to accentuate. You know what? I should be using this for that crunch that I noticed around here. But we're going to bring that down. And we're going to use this to bring the whole thing down at the front there. And we're going to bring the high up. And we're going to scoop the mid section here. So I happen to really like how this is starting to sound. And the last thing we're going to do is put a compressor on it. We could just use a preset like this one. Gentle Squeeze is a good one. I would probably lower the attack and maybe change the ratio a bit. But since we want something that people can use with every DAW, not just Ableton, we're going to drop the compressor out like that. We'll put the visualizer here as well. And this is going to have no knee. So basically the knee just rounds off this curve here. We're just going to get rid of that. Whoops, wrong way. We're going to get rid of that completely and bring up the threshold. You know, I usually like 6:1. And drop the threshold a bit, I think. And I would also recommend scanning the attack. See, this sounds terrible, but you can find some sweet spots, I would say between 20 milliseconds and 0. Like, that's pretty much where I want it to be, right around there. And then do the same for release. And you know what? I feel like this kick is just a little bit too long, actually. So this is what we're going to do. Sounds a little bit jarring, right? What you can do here, I'm just going to consolidate this so it's a little bit better to look at, a little bit better for my eyes. You can mess around with the envelopes of your sample here, which is what we're gonna do. But we're going to take the volume like so. We're just gonna drop it like that. So it's gonna sound a little bit more natural than that sudden jarring stock that I created when I deleted that part. But I really like that. So we're gonna keep it. And that's it. That's one sample out of the way. There are some tricks to resampling this. Let's see if I can just figure it out real quickly, because it's been a long time since I've done this. It's been years, in fact. So in Ableton here, you can choose resampling as an option, like that. And then you just hit record. And there you go. Now I can delete that. And we have our drum sample. So I'm actually going to save that, like so. And we're going to start all over with some snares. So this one, I'm going to teach you guys a few more useful tricks. But the first thing you're going to want to do is find a snare you like. This is Dance Music 101. That one's good. 707. And you're going to find a clap. What do we have here? Those almost sound perfect, just as they are. But we are going to start editing them. And you know what? Actually, I should be putting the spectrum analyzer on here first, because there is a real good reason why I want that on here. And we're going to do that for both. So that does not really need to be adjusted where it is, but this one, I want to adjust it to 100. And I can't tell you why, but I just find that's a really good spot. I have no explanation, but it's a super punchy spot. And I'm almost exactly there. We're just going to... That was all luck. I've never worked with this sample before. We're just going to fine tune it a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect though. Now, we're going to get rid of these spectrums here. And we're going to put the EQ8 on, same as last time. And I want to raise that 100 hertz spot and increase the Q a lot. And you can even do this to see how it sounds. Almost like a tom drum, right? And we're gonna bring out the low like that. Scoop out the mids. Raise the highs. And this one, you can kind of do something like this. You know what? We need to bring that back a little bit. There we go. And I think maybe do something like that. Or not. Oh, that sounds pretty decent, I would say. Okay. Now, I told you I was going to show you some more tricks with claps. You can just layer the fuck out of these. Excuse my French. You just have to find claps you actually like. Oh, that's a good one. And And you know what? I'm not even going to bother looking at the spectrum analyzer for that. We're just going to throw the EQ8 on there. Kind of do something like this. You know, I should be listening to this on its own. I like that. Kind of has like a, almost like a gunshot, a distant gunshot kind of sound. And just listen to all of these on their own. This is probably going to have to come down. This middle one will have to come down. And that'll have to go down a tad. And one more trick I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you all. This is my secret to getting a really punchy snare. We're going to take a tom. Preferably one that has a more punchy, a snappy kind of punch like that one. And the whole reason that we repitched this snare so drastically... Oh, you know what? Let me get this one out first. Can I drop that? Yeah, there we go. Is because I actually want to repitch this tom drum. The thing is, I want that to be around the 100 hertz mark. How much can I go? I can go up to 50. Okay, so we're gonna go roughly 30. See what happens. And that's just about perfect. So let's listen to it all together right now. Oh, that tom is way too much, right? So let's do something like this. Bring the 100 hertz mark up like that. And drop everything else. We're just going to keep doing this until we find the sweet spot. And you know what? I can probably lower the gain here a bit. Fuck, I heard the sweet spot for a second there. That's it. Okay. Next step, we're going to group everything together. And we're going to throw the EQ8 on. And as you can see, it's peaking right at that 100 hertz mark. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to bring EQ3 over to 100 hertz and do that. We're going to drop the low end off a lot. Scoop the mids out a little bit and raise the high. And same thing with the compressor. First we're gonna try a preset. So you can hear the difference. It's punchier. Then, in the interest of being cross-platform, we're gonna do this in the manual method. We can actually lower the output. Okay, cool. So let's resample that. We're ready to do that. Like so. We can delete these. And I'm going to turn resampling off there. Well, let's do that. Oh, whoops. There we go. Now, before we save this, I want to show you guys some tricks with Reverb here. We're just going to send this through the return. And if you don't like using returns, you can just throw the effect on top of the track. There's no reason why you can't do that. So let's put it roughly there. We're gonna do that. Drop out the chorus and spin, put it on high quality, and make it into a small room. And what we're gonna do, first of all, that sounds awesome, does it not? Yes. We're gonna play with the decay a little bit. So something that you might hear in some dubstep tracks, for example, is almost like, it almost sounds like a gated reverb, right? So that's around the 700 to, I guess, high 800s of milliseconds. Anywhere in that range. But stuff over 1 all sounds good. If you want something that sounds kind of synth wavy, you can throw a gate over top of it. You just got to play with the return here. But this is very similar to what you would hear with the snare in synthwave style music. Basically, there would be a gate cutting off the latter part of the instrument. But we're going to delete those, and I'm going to save this. And one more thing I want to show y'all. If I can remember how to do this, because it's been a while. Normally I would use Massive as the VST to do this, but I'm going to try using Analog, which is a way simpler instrument. And I don't think I'm going to be able to do this, but we'll try. So basically, we're going to try to turn this into a kick. So first, I'm going to make a MIDI clip here with a beat. You know what? I should have used this whole thing. There we go. Oh, Jesus. The world is falling apart. Here, I should be doing this way easier. There we go. So obviously that's not really usable. Now change it to a sine wave. So we're just finding a good bass point for our kick here. And then we're going to take the pitch envelope, like so. So yeah, you can even do this. You can even make a kick, very basic kick, but you can make one using the analog synth in Ableton. So basically what you're doing here is you're picking a really low octave, and then with a high attack, or sorry, with a fast attack, you're modulating the pitch to be super high, and then come down really fast after that, if that makes sense. I know my explanation lingo is terrible, but whatever. Now, that's not really good enough. I want to show you also how to do this in Massive, which is a way better VST, or synth, I should say. Well, I accidentally lost the last part of my recording, so I'm doing it again. But basically, after I showed you all the way that you can make a very primitive kick using analog, what we're going to do is use a more complicated VST. So pretty much a synth, right? So what we'll start with doing here, we're going to take the amp envelope and just do this. We're going to raise the sustain and lower the attack all the way. Next, we're going to switch to a sine wave, like so. And we're going to drop that down 3 octaves, so 36 steps. Man, we could just make this a bass and call it a day, right? But no, this is a video about kicks, so I actually put that envelope on the wrong spot. So we're going to take the third envelope here and put that on pitch modulation and raise that all the way back up 3 octaves. And we're going to listen to how that sounds. So basically the pitch is being modulated by an envelope that looks like this. And it pretty much sounds exactly as it should be. It's starting at negative 36 steps and quickly going up back to the bass point, and it's having a gradual decay to the sustain and then following through with the release. So that's what that sounds like. We're going to drop the sustain all the way because this is percussion, right? It's a hit with no sustain at all, just one beat, basically. It's a very simple instrument. So it's getting a little bit closer, but what we need to do is lower the decay. And it already sounds way more like a kick. So all you have to do to get the sound of the kick you want at this point is play with the attack and the decay. And you could even make something that kind of sounds a little bit like a hardstyle kick. You might have to put some effects on it, like some saturation and whatnot, but you can emulate anything using a synth like this, using a Softsynth. But guys, that is it for this video. I hope you all learned a lot about making your own percussion samples. But that is it. Please, if you enjoyed this video, like, favorite, comment, or subscribe, preferably all of those, and I will see you guys in the next video.